Hello there guys, and welcome to another one of my reviews. Today we are going to take a closer look at the brand new Toyota Yaris Cross. But first off, let's set about finding out what exactly this car is supposed to be. Well, launched late last year, this car is supposed to be Toyota's entry in the subcompact crossover niche. It's a rival for cars like the Peugeot 2008, the Opel Mokka, the Volkswagen T-Cross, the Volkswagen Taigo, and all of the cars in that segment. And it's supposed to use the same platform as the regular Yaris. Technically, this car is just a hyped up, Toyota Yaris on stilts, if you will, and it's based on the same platform built at the same factory in France. So basically, they should be the same. However, there are some notable differences, and in terms of design, I think the Yaris Cross looks nothing like the Yaris. If you want to tell me otherwise, please don't be shy and use the comment section below. But the front end does have a clean-cut design, and I like the fact that the car has presence. And we have a combination of red, gray, and black on the front end. It looks rather nice. And once you look at it from the sides, you will notice just how tall the ground clearance is. We have a ground clearance of 17 centimeters on this car, which should allow you to cover some mild off-roading, just like we did today to get to this filming location. But don't think of it as a proper off-roader. It will just allow you to, I don't know, soak up some bigger bumps and maybe go over a bigger pothole or two. What's interesting is that you can have this car with all-wheel drive, which is a big plus for Toyota compared to most of its rivals. But we're going to talk about that later on. What I also like from the sides is the fact that the doors open really wide, and we have them covering the door sills, so you won't ruin your trousers when you get in or out, depending on the car's condition. Let's say you went for some off-roading and the car is dirty, it will keep your pants clean. We also have some cladding on the front fenders and on the door sills to protect the car from, I don't know, pebbles and dirt and stuff like that. Regarding the wheels, you can have them up to 18 inches. This is what we have on our test car over here, and I think you should go for the bigger wheels because it's a rather big, solid car and it needs bigger wheels. Around the back, the design remains rather close to the Yaris. I do see some similarities over here in the back. If you open the trunk, you will have a different size for the luggage capacity depending on the model you went for. Basically, if you get a all-wheel drive setup, you will lose 77 liters of storage space in the boot. That's because you will have an electric motor and a different suspension setup in the back. But if you don't, if you go for a front-wheel drive setup, you will have up to 397 liters of space in the back. And the floor is rather flat. It has a double floor, so you can adjust it depending on your needs. Inside the Toyota Yaris Cross, you will find a mixed bag of materials. The top of the dashboard is wrapped up in soft touch plastic, which is a good touch, but from here on downwards, you will notice a lot of rougher plastic, lower quality plastic. Everything is done in it. On the door panels, you have rough touch plastic on the top side, middle side, and lower side. The door pockets are done in the same material, and we have this textile finish over here on the door panels that feels nice to the touch compared to the plastic, but it does seem to get dirty in a hurry. The seats are wrapped in leather on this top-notch version. They offer a lot of side bolstering and a lot of support for your lower back. Nothing to complain about over here. We have the same HVAC control panel over here from other Toyota models, a wireless charging pad, a couple of glossy black trims inside, but it's not a big deal like we've seen on other models before. We have a couple of buttons over here for various driving modes, and the biggest news inside the new Yaris Cross is this. This is a brand new infotainment system. The Yaris Cross is one of the first cars to get it. It has a new design, a new graphics, and everything you could possibly wish for. It's a touchscreen. The big issue I've noticed with it is that it seems to be quite laggy, especially when you connect your phone to it. You can connect your Android phone and your Apple device to this infotainment system. You can use Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, and theoretically Toyota says that Android Auto should be usable only with a wired connection, but my phone seems to be working with it without a wired connection, so it might be a problem related to some devices. But I noticed that when the car is connected to either Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, it is a bit laggier than usual. But overall, it works fine, no issues whatsoever. Right behind the steering wheel, we have the traditional Toyota instrument cluster with a big display right in the middle and some analog gauges to the left and to the right. Nothing to really talk about here either. Well, as you can see, there isn't a lot of room in the back of the Toyota Yaris Cross, at least not for people that are 6 feet tall and 250 pounds. Yeah, the driver's seat is adjusted in my comfortable driving position, and I don't fit in here. I mean, I fit, but not comfortably. So yeah, I'm hitting everything around me. If you're planning on buying this car for yourself or your family, mind you, there isn't a lot of room in the back, but I don't think that's a surprise to anyone. It still does better than some of its rivals. For example, I couldn't even fit in the back of the Opel Mokka, but that's about it. Once you get behind the wheel of the Toyota Yaris Cross, you notice a couple of things. The first one is that you're sitting really high. And that's something I cannot really say about all of the models in this segment. Just the other day, I was testing the Volkswagen Taigo, which is basically a rival for this car, and I noticed that the sitting position isn't exactly higher than in other normal non-crossover cars on the road. So that's quite an issue for some cars, but not on the Yaris Cross. You have a 17 centimeter ground clearance on this car, so you are sitting pretty high and you have great visibility all around, except maybe in the back where the rear window is partially obstructed by the massive headrests for the rear seats. You will also notice the fact that the engine under the hood is rather noisy and not very well balanced. And that's particularly a problem considering this car is a hybrid and it uses a CVT gearbox. And that means you'll have the engine under the hood revved up most of the trip, because that's how it works. The car revs up the engine to its optimum RPM range and then starts accelerating using the gearbox. So you will hear the engine quite a lot. This is a 3-cylinder 1.5 liter engine under the hood. It's naturally aspirated and can deliver up to 91 horsepower. And it is joined by an electric motor that can deliver up to 80 horsepower. Don't go rushing to add up those numbers, because the car can only rely on about 116 horsepower in total, which is enough for what it was meant to do. But as I said, you will hear that 3-cylinder revving up quite a lot while you're driving the car. Furthermore, the sound insulation is not exactly perfect, because I think, okay, you could still feel the vibrations of that 3-cylinder inside the cabin if the engine bay was properly isolated, sound isolated, muted out, call it whatever you want. You probably would feel the vibrations, but you wouldn't hear that engine. But in this case, you also hear the engine quite a lot. And the sound insulation does show its limits outside the city too. On the highway at 130 kilometers an hour, there is quite a lot of noise coming into the cabin, both from the engine bay and from the wheel wells. It's quite a noisy atmosphere inside this car. But again, I don't think this car was created to be a highway cruiser, and that's for a number of reasons. And the most important one is the hybrid powertrain, because this hybrid powertrain will not be as efficient outside the city limits as it is around town. So I did one of my regular fuel consumption tests the other day, and I saw an average of 7.4, 7.3 liters per 100 kilometers covered on the onboard car computer. So that's not a great result. But mind you, at higher speeds, the electric motor doesn't really chip in anymore, and you have to rely on the internal combustion engine alone. Around town, that's a whole different story, because around town, you will be using that electric motor a lot of the time. Basically, setting off will be done using electric power alone. So once you reach, I don't know, 20 miles an hour, the internal combustion engine will kick in. So you will save a lot of fuel by driving this way. It's the same story when you come to a complete halt, because the internal combustion engine will turn off and you will just sail along, recuperating energy and using the electric motors to get around, and the batteries that's stored in the back. And around town, I saw an average of about 5 liters of fuel per 100 kilometers covered, which is really, really good. And I'm willing to bet that none of this car's rivals will have that same efficiency around town. Since I mentioned the rivals, let's talk about this for a second. So most of them are quite well known. We're talking about the Opel Mokka, Peugeot 2008, the Volkswagen T-Cross or Taigo, whichever one you want. We're also talking about the Mazda CX-3. We're talking about Kia Stonic, the Hyundai Kona, and so on. Most of them are not hybrid. The only full hybrid I can remember right now in this range is the Renault Captur E-Tech. So this and that are the only full hybrid models you can get, and they will be the most efficient cars in this segment around town. Other advantage this car has over its rivals is that it is the only one that comes with all-wheel drive, and that's because of a very interesting setup that we have on this car, which uses a electric power unit on the rear axle to get those wheels powered as well. It's a small electric motor, only 5 horsepower, and it does change the geometry of the rear axle suspension, which on all-wheel drive models is an independent one. It's not a stiff torsion bar setup. And that's how Toyota managed to get all-wheel drive in this car. I, for one, would not get all-wheel drive, but I think it's an advantage for the Yaris Cross that you have the option to get it. As for the suspension, well, it's quite soft around town. We even have the 18-inch wheels on this car, which are the largest you can get, and I think it's pretty comfortable and well sound insulated. You don't hear any weird noises while driving around town. So it does its job really well. Furthermore, you have a tall ground clearance, 17 centimeters in total, so you can cover all sorts of different terrains. But my biggest complaint, I'm guessing you can hear it now, is the engine noise inside the cabin. Overall, I really liked the Yaris Cross. It does have some shortcomings, but it does have some advantages. For example, it is one of the very few cars in this segment that comes, I think it's the only one that comes with an automatic gearbox. No, the Captur E-Tech also comes with an automatic gearbox as standard, but this is a pretty big deal that you get an automatic gearbox as standard on this car. Most of the cars in this segment come as standard with manual gearboxes. That's like added value to your car that's included for free or for standard. So yeah, this and the all-wheel drive system and the hybrid setup, I think they are clear advantages this car has. But I also think that you really need to consider how you're going to use this model and what you are buying it for to make sure you make the right decision. As for the pricing, well, it's roughly about 20,000 euros as a starting price, depending on the market you're in. It will go up to about 30,000 euros, depending once again on the market you're in. But it's competitively priced compared to most of its rivals. So that's it. This has been my review of the Yaris Cross. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I know you have more questions about it. Don't be shy and drop them in the comment section below. And if you enjoy my content, don't be shy and also hit that subscribe button.